Hello, and welcome to this episode of Eagle's Eye. I'm your host, Natalie Byler. Thank you for tuning in. I'm joined by the Ashland University Assistant Provost for Student Success and Senior Advisor to the President for Student Success, Catherine Williams. Catherine, how are you doing today?
Great, thank you so much for having me here today.
So what exactly brought you here to Ashland University?
Yeah, what an awesome question. So my journey with AU started over 12 years ago, 2 weeks ago. So I just hit my 12th year anniversary. I was finishing up my higher education graduate program at Kent State University, and I was really trying to explore what opportunities were out there in higher education, and I had a connection through my current boss at that time whose dad actually worked here at AU, and it was one of the jobs that I had applied to, but I didn't realize that until afterwards, and then I just fell in love with the campus from my first interview, and I haven't left since. So it's been a wonderful 12 years of opportunity, and I love every day that I'm here.
What exactly does your job as Assistant Provost of Student Success entail?
Well, that depends on what day of the week we're talking about. So in a nutshell, my role supports the student experience on the academic side. So I oversee academic advising for various programs, whether that's at the undergraduate level of our residential students here on campus or our online students, as well as our graduate students. I also work with our tutoring programs to make sure that we have a wonderful peer tutoring program here. So working with that area. Also looking at our Student Accessibility Center for all of our accommodations, whether that's dietary, housing, or academic. And then I also work with our Retention and Completion, our Career Center for Life Calling. So all of those different resources that students utilize every single day, I get to work with the great teams and the staff that have the different programs and resources, and making sure that we're kind of the connection between the student, the faculty, our amazing athletic coaches, as well as all of the different areas of making sure we can facilitate those resources to see. So I do a lot of vision and strategic planning to make sure that we're having great retention of our students semester to semester, and then ultimately make sure our students graduate.
And can you elaborate on your position as the Senior Advisor to the President for Student Success and what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So Dr. Petey, when he came on board, I had the privilege of, I worked not only on the Presidential Search Committee, but also helping lead the inauguration planning efforts, as well as the transition from our past president to Dr. Petey. So in that, I just got to know him better and was always constantly bringing ideas to him. And so he really was able to mentor me in that capacity. And so now I work with him very closely on student, not only issues that arise, but also forward planning of these are best practices, and we should really, Ashland University, one of his mottos is really leading with excellence. So how do we make sure that we're continuing to raise the bar for what we offer students? So I've been able to work with him in that capacity. I've been able to serve on the executive leadership team of the university. So really having access and help lead that vision and support all of the amazing things that he's been able to do during his presidency.
And part of your job is that you provide strategic leadership with AU Student Success Services. Can you tell us what those programs are and your work with those programs?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that comes to mind is the SOAR network, which all students utilize to register and schedule their appointment with their academic advisor. So we implemented this in 2020, so during COVID and the pandemic. So I've really been able to see that program and that strategic initiative come to life over the past 6 years. And so that means meeting with all of the offices and how can this software make their job easier, and how do we start really embedding all of the things that we do, so then that way we can look at reporting and analytics. Is this program working for our students who are in a specific major, or how do we make sure we're tailoring that for graduate students versus an incoming freshman themselves? So I'm really proud of the work that we've done, and we've changed a lot. So we now have drop-in advising, so we have a kiosk that we utilize so students can log in, and we're able to have kind of like a waiting rooms effect, and just being more efficient with our time. But then also all of our surveys and success plans, they have all been automated, but they're tailored to each individual student. So when incoming freshmen come in, they take a survey that we've built in-house, and it allows us to make sure we're tailoring your needs. So if you have questions about your account or financial aid, or you're really interested in studying abroad early, we're able to get that communication out sooner and connect you with those resources. And we've been able, out of the 876 users across the United States with Starfish, we're in the top 10 utilization for not only how we utilize the system, but also how our faculty use, and also having coinciding effects with our retention rates as well. So it's really exciting to kind of see that from conception all the way through.
Throughout your time here at the university, you've had multiple different titles. Can you tell us where you started at AU and how you ended up in the position you are now?
Yeah, so I have been blessed with a lot of opportunities here. A lot of people have mentored me, have challenged me, and provided opportunities for me to learn unique and new roles. So my first role was I was a senior graduate admissions representative. So I worked on calling students all day long, prospective students who were interested in extending their academics here at AU. And then I slowly, as I was having conversations, my time in that role really stopped once you were registered for classes, and I didn't like that. I wanted to keep going. How do I make sure I'm supporting you until graduation or program completion if you were getting a teacher's license? So then I was like, I really would like to get into the academic side. And so I moved it over into academic advising, and then kind of just had different positions become available: assistant director, director, executive director. And I also was able to serve as an interim vice president for a little bit. So that really gave me more of a holistic picture of what roles encompassed in that at that time. And then I've just kind of moved around, and I've really found my fit here in student success. And so I've been in that for 4 years now. And my ultimate career goal is to be a college president. So what better way than to have a little bit of time in all of these areas and be able to work with amazing students like yourself and here on set and seeing things put theory into practice.
Did you see yourself in this position of your professional career when you first entered the workforce?
I think it was always, the idea was there. I'm a big believer in really following your calling. So I have the opportunity to teach the occupational life calling class. So I knew that this, I don't think the specific role was necessarily my plan, but I was really hoping to jump at any opportunity for learning new things. I love to learn, and so I'm always looking for an opportunity. So although this probably specific role, I was hopeful that it would be on a trajectory somewhere, but I'm also very open to opportunities, and calling may not always be in alignment, but I believe every opportunity you learn something to ultimately fulfill your calling.
And can you tell us a bit about your education journey, what your education journey was and how it led you to where you are in your schooling?
Yeah, so my undergraduate degree is from Baldwin Wallace College, now university, but I was the last class that graduated when it was still college. And so I was a student athlete, and I really believed that I was going to school at the time. My major was sport management and public relations, and I thought I was going to be a college basketball coach. My college basketball coach is still a mentor and dear friend to me now, and I really wanted to do that. But then over time, life happened, and I realized that wasn't necessarily the career path I was going to go. So I was kind of my senior year figuring out, now my whole plans have changed. And my coach said to me, you know, you could work on a college campus for a living. It doesn't have to be in athletics. And I thought, oh my gosh, you're right. But I've walked campus every day, didn't really put two and two together. So then she was like, you really should consider higher education. So I, at the time, applied for different positions and academic programs at the graduate level, and Kent State University offered me a graduate assistantship. So I worked for the university in leadership and academic advising, and then I also went to school full-time for my Master's of Education in Higher Education. So I did that, and then I applied to, after graduation, applied to many different roles and ended up at AU. And throughout my time, the number one question parents and families asked me were you a graduate of Ashland? And I always felt so bad when I answered that question. I was like, no, but I went to a small, similar school like in Ashland. And so finally I said, you know what, I really need to expand my skills. So I decided to come back to AU, and I did my MBA here, which was so life-changing. I've applied so many of the things now to my today's role, but I didn't know that back then. I just really felt I wanted to expand my skill set. And then now I'm completing my doctorate in organizational leadership in higher education. So I've taken all my coursework and I've passed my comprehensive exams, and now I'm writing my dissertation and looking at leadership, female leadership and working mothers in that study for my dissertation. So hopefully in a year from now, I'll be done with school for what I hope is the last time, but I really believe in lifelong learning, so it wouldn't surprise me if I signed up for a few more classes down the road.
You're also a professor here at AU teaching a handful of different classes. Can you elaborate on what those classes look like and what your goal is for those?
Yeah, so I've had the privilege to teach in different modalities. So I've taught occupational life calling through the College of Business and Economics. I've also taught contemporary business and social business ethics and responsibilities. So in each of those, I've been able to teach in our correctional education program, and I've taught College Credit Plus for our high school students seeking college credit, and then I've also taught the face-to-face residential student. In every single one of my classes, the goal is to make sure that I'm bringing the content to life and you're really able to have some takeaways from that, whether that's leaning into your calling and understanding the tools and assessments that we utilize, or right now in my online class, we're covering social corporate responsibility and how do different organizations apply that, and how you, when you're seeking an employment, what do you want to be associated with, and really taking into that overall picture. So I would say takeaways. It's also a great opportunity for me to meet students. So I've been able to meet many students who are here who have put this production together, and I connected with them. And in my role of student success, students is the first word in that. And I love to get to know students on campus. I try to be here and active as much as possible, but the best place to learn them and meet them is in classes. So like last night, I was at the Student Senate Eagle Talk, and a few of them were like, oh, I was in your online class. But then putting two and two together of a face and a name, and then seeing them in another role outside of the classroom is really just the best of both worlds for me.
And can you tell us what your favorite part of about your job is?
Oh, that's tough. I would say there's a three-way tie. So ultimately, I love meeting students and helping them along their journey. I've been able to stay in contact with students who I had met as freshmen, who are now graduating, and been able to meet their families, and whether that is an online student who I never met until graduation. So all of our communication was through email and phone calls. But then at graduation, I was able to meet their wife and their children and just be able to celebrate that moment. There's nothing like that. I would say second, I know I'm biased, but I have the best team on campus. They are always excited to come to work, even if it's in problem-solving mode. We really try to make sure we're having a transformational experience for our students and student success. And so being able to work with that. And then third, I've met a lot of my mentors on campus here, and those are faculty members and administrators that I'm continuing to learn of. So I always believe I'm a student of my environment. So I would say those are the three best things. And it also has just provided me a lot of support through my personal and professional career, and there's no place like Ashland. Truly, there isn't.
And you're also a mom, so can you tell us a bit about your family and that work-life balance?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have to make sure that I include both of my kids, because last time I only said my youngest son's name, and my oldest watched it, and he said, where was I? So I have two sons, Jack, who will be 3 in a month from today, and then my oldest, Miles, is 7. So I am very busy, and so I really don't necessarily believe in the work-life balance, so to speak, but really more making what is the priority for the day. So making sure I'm taking care of things at home so that when I'm here on campus, I'm fully engaged with the students I'm meeting with and the administrators and faculty. So I'm giving it my all here. And then when I'm at home, I'm really able to transform into that mom role. So it's been really great. It's also here in a community like Ashland, my kids are able to come to football games and they're able to come to different events and meet all the great people that I love and spend so much time with here, and they're able to see it here. My husband's also an alum of AU, so we always talk about that experience and how he was able to learn a lot of skills and meet a lot of faculty in a different way, but then when I'm able to speak to them about how they've professionally helped me along the way, do that. And so Being a mom is the best job in the world, and it is my #1 job, but I'm really able to have a great support system at home. My kids love Tuffy. My son and I were able to be honorary coaches at the football game in the fall, and he was on the sidelines, and the football players will, still come up and ask about Miles. He's going to come to lunch here with a few of the seniors before they graduate, and that just speaks to the type of students we have, and how I'm able to try to prioritize and keep both in the best light possible. And so I'm so thankful. My husband is a great support, has really allowed me to pursue my career in what it is today.
If anyone wanted to reach out with more questions about student success, how could they do so?
We would love to have you on the 7th floor. Stop by anytime. You're also able to email me. Kelly Kosick and Tina Cunningham are both the assistant directors of our academic advising that work a lot with students and work with all of our advisors. But anybody in student success in any area, whether it's career and life calling, tutoring, correctional education, student success, we are all very approachable, and we want to, if you have feedback, questions, we're always striving to raise the bar for ourselves, and we love to hear back from students. So however we can support you or different ideas, please, we would love to hear that.
Catherine, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It was great to be here.
That will be it for this episode of Eagle's Eye. Make sure to follow us across all social media at AUTV Ashland. Until next time, I'm Natalie Byler. Thank you for watching.